Printing money is bad,
Hmm.
right? It's inflationary.
Hmm.
But borrowing printed money is insane. Were I in his position, I would most certainly be digging for the truth. That would be
Yeah, but that's why you don't get elected.
that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. But I also fear the power. I know that once you attain the position of president, you either go along or you're gotten rid of. I mean, it's just that simple. So you either play the game the way it's supposed to be played. I don't think you have a choice at that level. You can campaign all you want and say all you want, but once you
Hmm.
get into the
Hmm.
Oval Office,
Yeah.
the harsh realities are settled upon you. And I'm
Well,
sure
look what, yeah,
Mr.
yeah, yeah. Look what excuse me. Look what even happened to President Johnson. I mean,
Yes,
this is a guy that his whole life he wanted to be president, right? He got in by who knows what means,
hooker by
hook or
crook.
by crook, oh, Lion Lyndon, and he had he couldn't even stomach any more of the Vietnam War that they were having him do, and
That's
he
right.
quit.
Yeah,
I remember his speech in spring of 1968, stationed at
I will not seek,
I will not seek. I
nor
will
will
not
I
now
accept.
run. And I tell you what, man, you talk a guy like that saying that.
Thunderbolt,
Whoa,
thunderbolt.
whoa,
Yeah, and
yeah. And
you
it's
get
like
me
whoa,
reelected, and I'll get you your damn war. That was
yeah.
well, I think he regretted every moment of that.
And then fast forward, who steps in but Bobby Kennedy, who
Oh,
wanted nothing about Vietnam, and look
yeah,
what happened to him.
yeah. Same thing that happened to his brother. It runs in the family, so you can certainly
Man,
understand why Teddy Kennedy just,
no, he said no, no.
nah,
He said no.
thanks. I'll
I
do whatever you guys need me to
no.
do.
Actually, what he said, what he said was, I'm not going to cross that bridge. That was terrible.
It was a
So
reference to the Kennedy car
sorry,
wash.
Teddy. Oh my God, my God. Yeah, boy, when they killed Bobby, then you knew that these boys play rough, man. They rough and
Yeah, yeah. Actually,
rough and
yeah,
tumble. Yeah,
yeah,
rough and tumble.
yeah. Yeah, you could go back further,
Go ahead,
further.
go back.
Knights of the Golden Cross, John Wilkes Booth.
So that was a done deal too. That was a deal with Lincoln, right?
Yeah, yeah, Stanton. The mysterious pass that was given to Booth that allowed him to escape from Washington to Maryland.
Uh huh. Uh huh. So that this was a well planned event, the Lincoln deal.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. The and there's no doubt it was a conspiracy. Secretary of State Seward was attacked at the very same time. So while Kennedy was being shot in the theater, excuse me, Lincoln, a lot of
Yeah.
parallels there.
Yeah.
There was an attack on William Seward uh, in his townhouse, which nearly put him to death. So the two were linked, no matter what they say, because the conspirators were from the same crowd. Mary Surratt and Surratt's boarding house. So if you study history, you'll see patterns repeating themselves. And one of them is when a president gets out of line. And there's no question that Lincoln was completely out of line from the perspective of those who had fought so hard to win this war. We're not going to let him screw it up now. So
Was it just the creating the greenbacks, or
that
there
was
was
the
more?
killer. Yeah, no,
That was it.
he saw the efficacy of that. Um, the great quote by Lincoln was, "I'm facing two armies, and I fear the one to my rear."
Oh,
That's
the bankers,
paraphrased.
right?
Yeah, they wanted to charge him anywhere from 18 to 24%
To
interest
do the war, huh?
to finance the war.
Wow.
So he contacted one of the guys that was around in the War of 1812, an old timer, and he said, "How the hell did you guys do it?"
How'd you get around these banker boys,
Yeah,
man?
how'd you do? And the bankers, of course, with the Hartford Convention and the whole "we don't want to go to war with Britain" thing, give them their charter. That was all going on during the War of 1812. So you had this whole faction that was, appease, give them what they want. We don't want to go to
Mm.
war with them. And the war was essentially financed with Treasury paper, and this was the advice given to Lincoln. He's like, we just got the best Treasury paper we could find, and we printed up these bonds, these bills, and that's what we circulated as money. And he was like, okay, I'll do the same. And that's what he did. The greenbacks got through Congress in an emergency measure along with the National Banking Act. So it was kind of like, okay, we'll give you the power to create greenbacks, and you give us the power to organize a national banking system.
Oh.
And that's what they did. So once they got the national banking system, the only way to extinguish the greenback was to extinguish the man that brought him up, because he said after the war he was going to use the same method that he used to finance the war to rebuild the nation.
So the bankers had lost control since Andrew Jackson in the early 1800s.
Right, he killed the bank.
He killed the bank.
Killed him dead.
And he ran on that platform, right?
You know, he killed the central bank.
Killed
And
the
we didn't
central
have a
bank.
central bank after that. We had a sub-treasury system
Wow.
and gold and silver coin. And
Wow.
for the first time in the nation's history, we paid our national debt. We had no debt. We had a surplus.
Ooh.
And, wow.
Just like Bill Clinton, no doubt.
Yeah, and then in that period from 18... just like Bill Clinton.
I just sorry, I just had to throw that in.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. So that period was pretty...
From 1835 to 1860,
Yeah.
greatest growth
No
you have
kidding.
ever seen. Canals and railroads and the sewing
real
machine,
money, huh?
refrigeration. Sure, not only real money, but the monopoly, the idea of monopoly credit issuance. So
I beg
the
your
first
pardon?
bank, the first bank
See,
of the
he
United
just comes up with these words.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what this stuff means.
So the
Monopoly
first,
credit.
yeah, give me the power to issue a nation's money, and I care not who makes its laws. So if you centralize that power in a single person or a group of people,
Yeah.
that was the model of the first Bank of the United States. So the monopoly power to issue these bank notes was rested with the the first Bank of the United States.
1793?
1792.
2.
Yes.
I was close.
So it was granted a 20-year charter to do just this,
Yeah.
right? To mobilize the nation's credit.
Oh, boy, that's
So-
what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'll be
it
mobilizing, dude. I'll be mobilizing.
First Bank of the United States was the government's fiscal agent, and so it received all of the tax deposits in the form of gold and silver coin that were paid into the Treasury.
Good for them.
Then they used that as their monetary base and issued notes.
But it was the Treasury's money.
Yeah, but it was in their possession.
Oh.
And so, you know, if you've got the
I hate it when
Treasury's
that happens.
if you've got the Treasury's gold in your possession,
Yep.
and you know that gold is $20 to the ounce,
Yeah.
and you issue a $20 bank note,
Yeah.
and it gets out into circulation, it comes back and it gets redeemed for an ounce of gold. You take the note back. So from their perspective, there was always a surplus, and they could issue notes against that and buy up critical industry, and that's what they did. They bought up newspapers. They started the Society for Useful Manufacture. Alexander Hamilton started the only other bank in the United States, the Bank of New York, and you had the Patterson Falls and the harnessing of the water power and the birth of the Industrial Revolution, all by Alexander Hamilton and his friends who were connected to the first Bank of the United States. So after 20 years, the people in elected office said, well, you know, you guys are just getting rich, and you're not doing anything for the nation.
We'll just take this bank thing back.
Yeah, we're going to cancel that charter.
Whoops.
And they did in 1812. And, of course, they were rattling about it in 1810 and 1811, 1809. There were no $10 gold coins issued in 1809. There were none issued in 1808. You know, the issuance of coinage was so minuscule that as quick as a coin was issued, the Bank of the United States would snap it up and issue a banknote. So all that circulated were these monopoly banknotes issued by the Bank of the United States. The War of 1812 happened, and then we had a second monopoly bank, the second Bank of the United States, and that's the one that Andrew Jackson killed. And when he killed it, what he killed was the monopoly power to issue money. And what unleashed the engine of commerce was the fact that anyone could now start a bank subject to the laws of fraud. So
As long as they had the gold, they could issue notes.
that's right. That's right.
The Patrick's Bank of Dripping Springs.
Yes.
I could do that as long as I had the gold.
The Manufacturers Bank of Cleveland, Ohio. And so the merchants of Ohio could all get together and charter a bank
Yeah.
and then issue banknotes to pay for a particular a factory or a particular improvement. And so money became widely available to local entrepreneurs without having to trudge their way to New York and beg a banker to invest in a scheme that may enrich the banker, but most times left the entrepreneur broke.
Where'd they get the gold?
Well, people contributed. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're the merchants of Cleveland and you want to set up a merchants exchange of an open market of some sort, and you all subscribe to shares in a bank, and then put some gold in the bank vault, issue bank notes, voila, you have a bank that will finance your industry. And so the decentralizing of the creation of credit is what unleashed the American economy. So now you had banks springing up everywhere, and
Hmm.
people with faith in those banks and those operations put their money in it, put their assets in it, and didn't run to the bank and ask for them back. So everyone flourished. We had a period of immense economic growth.
And
It
then the
wasn't
Civil War, and then
well,
yeah, yeah.
actually, it was the SS Central America which touched off a panic in 1857. They found all that gold in California in 1849, and that of course contributed to the nation's wealth. And so they loaded this steamship, the SS Central
Who
America,
did?
well, the banks and the
Uh-huh,
boys, and
uh-huh, uh-huh.
with gold,
Hmm. Yeah.
and started steaming their way up the east coast of the United States after making their way across the isthmus, however you say that,
Hmm.
in Panama. So they shipped it down to Panama, muled it or trained it across the Panama Strait there, and then loaded it on ships on the East Coast. And they were coming up the East Coast of the United States when a hurricane struck off North Carolina and sank this ship,
What was the name of it?
the SS Central America.
Wow.
It was loaded with so much gold, Patrick. It was so much gold.
Wow.
When it didn't arrive in New York
Whoops.
to handle all those banknotes, the entire system collapsed.
What banknotes?
With the banknotes that had been issued against the gold that was loaded on the ships in California. So
Oh, so the banknotes were issued because they knew the gold
they
was
knew the gold
coming.
was on the way. Yes.
Man,
When it
it was a
sank,
lot.
it was a lot. Yeah, it sank, and it really sank the economy. And so we had a panic in 1857 that lasted quite a few years. So one thing that this
Hmm.
decentralized credit gave us was these boom and bust cycles that you could just about set your clock by.
Yeah.
And the theory of the central bank was that it would smooth out these bumps and the ability to lean against the wind.
No
So if
more
there's
panics.
right, eliminate panics. That was one of the selling points of a central bank.
Well, they missed it to 1997,
Or
2000,
29.
or 29,
Yeah.
or 2008.